All right, people, let's talk more brain surgery recovery, post acoustic neuroma surgery. Last time I talked about being on the recovery wing in the hospital and being discharged. So now on my way home afterwards as a 21-year-old guy who just had a big tumor removed from his head, about the size of a golf ball, so pretty big. When they discharged me, my mom drove me home, and it was a couple hours from our house where I had the surgery, and I remember the drive being horrible. Every bump in the road hurt my head, so that's something that I remember. It was a terrible drive home. Head obviously super sensitive. Big scar back here, or not a scar yet, but big incision with tons of stitches, just open. They sent me home with some drugs like painkillers and steroids. So I was taking those for a few weeks, I would say. But once I got home, it was kind of like a new phase of recovery, where things sunk in a little bit more. Pretty depressing time, scary time. But basically my mom took care of me. If I'd been taking care of myself, I would have had it very, very difficult, very hard. Because I needed, I couldn't do stuff, like I couldn't walk very well on my own. And I was just learning to be able to swallow. So it was, necessary things that I maybe wouldn't have been able to do so well on my own, like go to the kitchen or make food, So, the first thing that my body, let's talk from the point of view of my body, the first thing my body wanted was to eat. I had lost, when I measured myself, when I weighed myself, I think I lost like 40 pounds. I think I weighed 110 or something. It was insane. In like a week, I don't even know how that happened. But not eating for a full week, basically anything real. Huge weight loss. So my body was just in consume mode. That was like number one. Rest, eat. Rest, eat, rest, eat. That's all I wanted to do. So when I could swallow again, that was the first priority. I remember the first real meal that I had, and it was insane because my body, the way that it processed stuff was real different. And one of the things that was real different was how food tasted. Everything tasted amazing. It was the best food ever, even though it was just normal potatoes and spinach and eggs or something. Everything tasted amazing. And my sense of knowing when I was full was offline, basically. My body was eat as much as fits in, actually fits in. So the sign to stop eating was a pain, in my stomach from being full, not the usual one of oh, I'm full, that we all feel, that I feel now. It was a different thing. It was and so I started gaining weight for sure. It was a huge deal to be able to swallow again, be able to eat. And then I remember drinking a lot of ice cream milkshakes. I mean, fat, yum. Sugar, yum. My body was just sucking it all up. I remember the first time I took a bath, I could feel my spine, the bones on the bottom of the bath, and that I never felt that before. So the amount of weight that I lost was, pretty extreme. Also, a lot of hair fell out that bath. I remember that was rough. So basically, the setup was I couldn't really do steps very easily. So I was on the ground floor in a like garden chair that like, laid back like a lounge or whatever. It was made out of metal with like cushions on it. That's where I hung out like all day. I remember that. And a lot of rest, lots of naps. So learning to eat for sure. Next up, learning to walk. So this tumor I mentioned last video too, it messes with your balance big time. It grows in the balance like nerve to your ear. Mine was on this side. So my balance was terrible. So I needed something to like hold on to, a person or a railing or whatever to walk around until that like improved. But the the other dimension, the scary one, was vertigo. I had never had vertigo before, and the first time I had it was terrifying. And it's a different feeling. Like balance being bad, yeah, you kind of can have a sense of what that means. Vertigo is different. It is, the way I would describe it is your body can't feel anymore which way is down. So like if you close your eyes, you still know you're being sucked to the ground. Gravity down is this way. If you're sitting in a chair, you know you're not going to fall off to the right or the left or down. With the vertigo that I had, suddenly my body didn't know anymore if it was going to fall some other direction. Essentially, that's the best way I can describe it. Absolutely terrifying. Came on very fast. And I mentioned last time too, the one thing the neurosurgeon told me is do not fall. Do not hit your head on anything. Do not fall, because that could be terrible. So I had some vertigo to that and bad balance and being really weak, and that becomes like a real threat, especially on the steps, but even just walking around. So I remember just whenever I felt a vertigo like attack, they call it an attack, coming on, I just got on the floor. I just laid down on the floor, because I knew that in reality, even though I felt like I could fall off the floor, like fall towards a wall, I knew that in reality that was not going to happen. So I would lie on the floor and just wait for it to pass. They were pretty short. It's not like it went on for like 5 minutes. It was pretty short. But that was a terrifying thing that was new, that I'd never had before, and that I haven't had since. It's a crazy feeling. It might have had to do with like the brainstem kind of moving, wiggling a bit after surgery. That was a big deal. Vertigo. And then two other major kind of things. One, was my face, my facial movement, half paralyzed. That stayed for weeks before I felt any kind of movement, tiny movement around my mouth. And the main impact of that, looking back on it, was my eye. This eye still doesn't blink properly. When I blink quickly, it comes down only like halfway, but even now. But I can blink it all the way if I want to. But imagine not being able to blink, right? Your eye dries out. So you can even lose your vision. So I had an eye patch for a while. And then at home, I had an eyelid weight. So it's made out of metal. And every day I would attach it to my eyelid so that it would be weighed down and closed. And on top of that, put in a bunch of ointment, lubricant ointment, to keep the eye moist. Don't let it dry out, because then it could be, have one eye and one ear. That all turned out okay. I got two eyes. They both see fine. Even though I have to try harder to blink on my left side, I can still do it. So if I have dry eyes, I wear contacts also. So I just blink fully when I feel dry. But there it was rough because I wasn't used to seeing with one eye. And I remember trying to read, because all I'm doing all day is lying there, trying to read, and I couldn't do it. It was too hard to just read with one eye and a blurry eye or no eye, and it was just so demoralizing that I couldn't even see properly. This is supposed to be an ear problem, like a balance problem, ear problem, but I couldn't see either. My eye was messed up. And the whole time wondering, is this gonna come back? Is this gonna be okay again? And that went through everything. Is this gonna be okay? Am I gonna go back to normal, how I was before? Am I gonna be able to walk? Am I gonna be able to play basketball? Am I gonna be able to do stuff, ride my bike, walk, run? Am I gonna be able to hear again? Which is the other thing, probably the last thing I'll talk about, hearing. So I was deaf in this ear suddenly after surgery, like I mentioned before. That happens with big tumors, and if they take it all out, that can definitely happen. And it happened in my case. And that nerve doesn't regenerate. It doesn't grow back. It doesn't regain function. Sort of as a rule, I guess. But who knows? In my case, it did not come back. That was profound difference overnight. And I loved music. I was even made music when I was younger. And I remember how much I would have liked to listen to music as I was lying there in the deck chair in the living room. And I tried once. Got the boombox, got the stereo, whatever. Tried to listen to some of my favorite music. I lasted 2 minutes. It was horrible. Only being able to hear in one ear suddenly is a huge shift. It's music sounded thin, empty, the opposite of full sound. And it was so depressing to someone who really, connected with music. Listened to music constantly. When I went to sleep, music on. On the way to school, music on. Music on always, obviously. Loved it. So suddenly, this was oh my God. I can't even do this. I couldn't, it was rough. I couldn't do the things that I loved. I didn't love reading, but I even would have done that. So, very hard, very difficult these weeks after coming home, for sure. Very hard. Just emotionally, physically, also just very difficult. And I remember still sleeping upstairs in a bed, at a raised bed. And then, getting help from my mom to come downstairs. I remember it being a big deal when I could walk down the stairs myself, when I felt good enough to do that, so that I could make myself as many strawberry ice cream milkshakes as I wanted. Multiples a day, for sure. Ridiculous. In any case, that's some of the at-home recovery after this big surgery that I had. As it stretched on, things started to shift as I got stronger. But these first few weeks, rough, weak, had a lot of just physical rebuilding to do, my body, which it did really quickly because I was relatively young. In any case, next time maybe, extended recovery at home. And that'll be it pretty soon for this story. But that's it for now. Thanks.